If you are one of these British bleeding heart civvies who's gone over to the Ukraine to help them fight the Russians, or if you're a British soldier who's gone over there to do the same, then you, my friend, are a bloody tool, and here's why. Right then, honky tonks, why do I always stand like this at the beginning of every video? Probably to make myself look smarter than I really am, who knows. Anyway, another Ukraine video. Now, word has reached me personally on the old army grapevine that there have been British soldiers who have gone AWOL to go over to the Ukraine to help them fight the Russians. And these aren't low ranks, these are like NCOs. They've got ranks, allegedly, but I'm sure the truth of this will come out. And it is illegal what they've done. To go over there, do that and come back. They will lose their careers, pensions, privileges, anything else that the MOD can come down hard on them with. Even civvies have done this, bleeding heart civvies, and we all know the same thing as everything woke goes to shit. Bleeding hearts never help. They do harm to themselves and others because they're virtue signalling woke prats who think they're doing the right thing and they want to be seen to be doing the right thing, or the right thing in their minds anyway, but they always get it wrong, and it always comes back to haunt them and bites them on the bum, as we all know it does. An example of a bleeding heart is various British families, woke, wealthy, middle class British families who have taken in so-called refugees only to end up having their kids raped or get murdered by them. That is a bleeding heart, and the consequences of being a bleeding heart can be disastrous. Saying that about the British squaddies could be losing their careers if they're found guilty by the MOD for doing this. They'll be court-martialed if they come back alive, or if they don't come back at all, because they're probably too scared to face the consequences and make a life in whatever they are. But like I said, saying that, there was a guy in my regiment years ago, he went AWOL, joined the French Foreign Legion, came back, did a few months in Colchester, then continued with his career. The last time I saw him was a colour sergeant, so swings and roundabouts, I guess. But if you do go over there, then you are highly, highly stupid. And there's nothing I can do to help you, because one of the most important weapons of going into war or conflict is information. And I don't believe they've armed themselves with information to do this. They've either gone over there because they want to kill Putin, kill Russians. Of course, it's open season on Russians now, especially on Twitter. You can say the most horrible thing about ordinary Russian people because they're Russians, which is bigotry and discrimination at the highest level. And Twitter won't kick you off because you think like they do. And it goes against their community guidelines. It's okay when the lefties do it, I guess. And do you really think that the Ukrainians, in the middle of a war, have the time and resources to teach you their language in order to teach you their weapon systems, tactics, lay of the land, information on the enemy, and information on anything else? No, they don't. You will hamper, hinder, and you could cost them the war or battles. That's what you're doing because of your own virtue signalling woke stupidity. Many things to consider here, but I'm going to give you a few facts about the Ukraine, which I think you should know about, which you won't find on Google, mainstream media or social media, because especially on social media, anyone brings up these facts on social media, you're gone. And I thought it was just Putin and his regime that did stuff like this. How dare people in the West, the mainstream media, social media, accuse Putin of cancel culture and controlling the narrative and lying when they've been doing this for yonks now. Lied to us about Brexit, Trump, the plague, loads of stuff, the Mexican border, the EU, behaving just like Putin's regime, and they've got the gall to accuse him of doing the same thing. I think it's wrong and it's sickening. So if you're a bleeding heart lefty and you feel so strongly that you need to go to the Ukraine, kill Russians and somehow kill Putin, then these things you need to know. I won't explain these to the squaddies. The squaddies should know better. They really should know better. I mean, I can bet you good money now that these soldiers who've gone over there are likely to be sergeants or corporals, colour sergeants who are unhappy with their careers and just want to kill people because fuck the consequences, they don't care. But this is for the civvies over there. You need to know who the people you are fighting for, the government you are fighting for, and what's going on over there. So let's start with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky is famously a former comedian. He won the election with a huge landslide, and now he's trying his best to get the former president arrested and jailed, as he has done with other opposition MPs. Now, this is the behaviour of politicians, sorry. Now, this is behaviour of a dictator, and isn't this what Putin does? Doesn't he prosecute opposition politicians for speaking out against him? Something's not right there, is there? And also, Zelensky has said his anti-Russian oligarchs, the billionaires who are funding the government and the army and God knows what else, fingers in all sorts of murky pies. And like I said before, I'm not a fan of Putin, by the way. I think he's a dangerous, paranoid individual. But there's the Pandora Papers. Now, the Pandora Papers, miraculously, haven't been omitted from Google's search engine. And what these are papers that reveal people who have offshore bank accounts, tax dodgers basically, and Zelensky's one of them. He's got millions in various offshore bank accounts and programs designed to pay less tax, and all these have got links with the Russian oligarchs. So the guy saying he's anti-oligarch, but he's in amongst them, making millions. What does that tell you? Give the devil his due. All right, he has stayed there. He has refused NATO and the EU's offer of evacuating him and his family. Had he done that, he would be seen as a coward. But give the devil his due. But then again, he is a bit of a devil. So there we go. Make your own minds up on that one. There have also been reports of illegal laboratories meddling with bioweapons in the Ukraine. I looked into this, and there's a left-wing website called EU versus Disinformation, or EU versus Disinfo, and they've got a statement themselves by the United States Embassy, who have said that the US is working with the Ukrainian government to consolidate and secure toxins of security concerns to produce vaccines. Now imagine all this stuff getting let loose on the world. Imagine how many millions that could kill. Now, in that statement, the US used the word peaceful. The statement goes on, I just gave you the heading there, but they say they're working peacefully to research these things. And again, put two and two together, put your Sherlock Holmes cap on, look into it. It's all on there. Everything's on the net, everything. Not on Google, but elsewhere. I can't say on here, obviously, but just look for it. It's there. So there are fact-checking websites out there saying that they don't exist, but the US Embassy have said, and in that statement saying, yes, they do exist. We are working with Ukrainians, but it's not for what you think it is. Yeah. And also, bleeding heart lefties, if you're going over there to join the Ukrainian army, do whatever, then you'll be joining Nazis. There are Nazis working with the Ukrainian army. This is a fact. Everything I've told you so far, everything I'm going to tell you about the Ukraine is fact. It's not fake news. It's not what the lefties would call misinformation or disinformation. It's a fact. Inconvenient fact, though, if you don't like what I'm saying. Now, I saw this meme on some Leftwing Extremists Twitter account, which was laughable. This is the lefties' logic. It's guilt by association. That's how these people think, sadly, and there's many of them. You'll find most of them, these left-wing bigots, on Twitter. Anyway, the logic here is that there are 10 people sat around a table. Adolf Hitler comes and sits next to them, and because these people refuse to get up, there are now 11 Nazis sat around this table, which doesn't make sense. Just because you sat with a Nazi doesn't make you a Nazi. Quite frankly, if I saw Adolf Hitler, he's come back from the dead, I wouldn't shoot him. I'd have to ask him a billion questions first. But that's just me. That's the logical mind for you. But going back to the Ukraine and using this logic now, there are Nazis fighting in the Ukrainian army for the Ukrainian cause against the Russians. These are called the Azov Regiment. They're a volunteer regiment. They're white supremacists. They hold Nazi values. They are extremely bigoted. They're extremists, your proper fascist Nazi extremists. Real ones. Not people like me with a different opinion, with, concerns, valid concerns about things. and wants things resolved in a peaceful manner. These are the proper bad guys, which the Twitterati should be targeting. But these people have coated their ammunition even in pig's blood and pig fat in order to kill the Chechens who are there fighting on behalf of the Russians. And the Chechens are Muslims. God knows how their weapon would react to something with fat around the ammunition. It'll clog up the magazine and screw up the barrel, and then it'll go into the bolt. And anyway, if you know weapons, you know for a fact that putting a round in fat will do absolutely fuck all for that weapon, and the round won't go where you want it to. But there you go. But using the lefties' logic now against them, if you are supporting the Ukraine, if you have the Ukraine flag on your social media profile, then using your own logic of guilt by association, and because there are Nazis, the Azov regiment, fighting for the Ukrainians, that makes you, dear lefty bleeding heart twat, a Nazi. Makes sense, doesn't it? So what's going over there is a dangerous game played by NATO. They're using the Ukraine. I'm going to make another prediction here. I might be wrong again. I've been wrong in the past. But I don't think the NATO will join in, because they'll unleash China nuclear warfare, destruction of mankind. The consequences are too great, are too terrible to even consider. That's why NATO won't join in. And that's why they're just stood there, because they've been seducing the Ukraine for years to join NATO and even the EU, because even as far back as 2018 or 2019, the Ukraine completely changed its rank structure and the rank insignias of the higher officers to match those of the NATO armies. So they thought they were going to get into NATO. They haven't been accepted. They've applied for the EU, and I bet you millions, I bet you good money, the EU won't accept them. And the EU promised Russia it wouldn't be encroaching onto their borders, but slowly they've been doing this. And this has made the Russian government, Putin especially, more paranoid. It's probably why he's done this, because he doesn't want the Ukraine joining NATO or the EU, because the Ukraine is smack bang on Russia's border, which means the NATO can bring missiles even closer to the Russian Federation, and they can see this as a threat. So the relationship between NATO and the Ukraine is this. Imagine NATO being the shitty friend of the Ukraine. NATO doesn't like Russia, so it's using the Ukraine to throw snidey remarks at the Russians. It stood there next to the Ukraine saying, go on, tell him to fuck off, go on, call him a wanker, whispering things into Ukraine's ear. It's loading the gun for Ukraine to fire that weapon. It's that simple. It's things you need to know. And when all this is said and done, if Russia does succeed in this war, its objective, NATO can come and help them. They won't, because that'll mean direct war with Russia. And I've told you before, direct war with Russia opens up all sorts of cans of worms, which doesn't bear thinking about. So if you're going over there to fight for the Ukraine against Russia, you're wasting your time, and nothing good will ever come out of it. If you're a squaddy over there, then you are fucking naughty. And that's that. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments, if I'm wrong or whatever. I like to read the comments and interact, especially with the lefties. And if you're a special lefty, I'll pin you so everyone can make fun of you, as you richly deserve. And that's that. Comment, share, subscribe. Until my next video, Roger Trout.